to keep the music scene alive in this town. If it wasn't for Tim Hall and Jackrabbits here, there probably wouldn't be any place for a new band to play original music. So give him a hand.
Yeah.
Give Tim Hall a hand. And this afternoon, the North Florida Music Association is presenting our seminar titled What A&R Wants. So we're hoping to stick with that topic, if you would. We've got some A&R people here from Orlando and Atlanta, from Atlantic Records, and from Warner Brothers, 6 Mile Records, which is a Warner Brothers affiliate. Is that right?
Kind of, sort of.
Kind of, sort of. Okay, close enough. Anyway, our moderator is going to be Mr. Tim Hall, and he's going to ask him a few questions and get a few things out in the open, and then we'll open the floor to questions. Here's our moderator, Tim Hall.
Over here on the left, we have Pete Thornton. He's an independent producer. He worked with Limp Bizkit in the early days. Cole did some demo work for them, and Monkey the Fish is currently working with a lot. I think Lovecraft as well, right? So, okay. And then Steve Robertson's in the middle. He's from Atlantic Records, Southeast A&R rep. He's worked with Mighty Joe Plum. They had a big single, what was it, 5 years ago, I guess? No, it's like 4 or 5 years ago. Really big single. He's worked with Collective Soul, 7 Mary 3, Tabitha Secret, which turned out to be Matchbox 20. So this is Scott Michaels. He's from 6 Mile Records, a fairly new record label, a subsidiary of Warner Brothers.
Not a subsidiary. I'm
an affiliate.
An affiliate through me. I'm the Southeast Regional A&R rep for Warner.
Okay, cool.
As well as a partner in 6 Mile.
All right, cool. And he's based out of Atlanta, right? And Steve, you're based out of Orlando. And our hometown buddy over here, Jacksonville, Florida. Cool.
Homie.
All right. So this panel's called "What A&R Wants." What the hell do you guys want?
I don't know. We're here to ask you that. What do we want?
We want lots of Jacksonville bands to be signed. I guess Pete would be good to start off with because he's familiar with the Jacksonville scene. What do you think's lacking in Jacksonville from the bands that have been through your studio?
What do you mean lacking? Like
what's the biggest mistakes that you feel that you've seen?
I would say that
Professionalism.
yeah, that's actually what I was going to say. That they worry a lot of times about other peripheral things other than writing really good songs and playing them really well. And sometimes they try to jump too fast, do something before they're prepared to actually make a recording. To understand what that quality, in my opinion at least, supersedes quantity any day of the week as far as demos and music and all that goes. Because a lot of times a band will come in and go, yeah, we want how much, what do you want to do? And they're like, oh, we got 6 songs, like 4 minutes each. I don't know, we need an hour maybe, and it's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, you can't do one song in an hour, much less 6. What's your suggestions for improving that? Just education to the bands to let them know. Saying,
well, I think they need to listen to recordings better and really pay attention to what bands are. What are the elements of these recordings that the bands that are on labels? What are they? Why does it sound like that? Why are they playing this way? The guy's not doing a million fills of the drums. All those little things. You need to listen to recordings that are successful and kind of really pay attention to that. I don't think a lot of times artists really dive in deep into recordings that are successful and try to understand why they're successful.
And why do you think the most hit songs are hit songs? Steve might be able to comment on that.
I mean, I used to do radio, so I was just constantly going through stacks and stacks of finished CDs from the labels, and now I do it with demos. But I really wish, I've had that question put to me a lot, what makes a hit song, and there really is no good answer. You just know when you hear it. Some people have a certain sensitivity to what will become a hit, and I think I have that, and the 3 of us up here obviously have some sort of sensitivity towards what a hit song is, but
it's very subjective.
It is, yes, it's very subjective. I just know that, and I liken it to sex in a way, a hit song, and I don't say it to be funny or cute or whatever, but there is a certain, when a song comes on, there's a certain tension that starts to build immediately when you in the verse, and then the pre-chorus you feel something is about to happen. and then when the chorus comes, it's almost like a release, and so the most obvious hit songs like Creed or something like that. That's the kind of very tangible feeling that I get when I hear a hit song.
It's got to leave you remembering it, no matter what it is. Whether it's a guitar hook, whether it's a lyrical hook, you have to, whether it's you specifically or the masses, they have to remember it. That's what a hook in a song is, and that's usually what makes a hit song. Or it's pounding in your head. You hear it 30 times a day on the local rock station. But even those songs, if they've made it that far, 9 times out of 10, they've got something special that even if you hate it, even if you hate Creed, because there's a lot of musicians that hate Creed, but come on, those guys kind of prevailed this year. They kind of, in their own little way, saved rock and roll. Don't throw anything at me, but they did. They're you look at the top 20 pop albums of this year, and they're in the top 10, and they're one of only, I think, 3 or 4 other rock bands, and one of them broke up in 1968, and that's the Beatles. So we haven't had a whole lot of rock out there.
Well, the 2 biggest rock bands in the world right now are from North Florida, right?
Yep.
Being Creed and Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of them's from somewhere around here, I think. I think. Now, Fred might disagree, but I'm going to backtrack a little bit because this is a question I wanted to ask at the beginning, but forgot. Maybe the PVRs. A lot of people here are in band stuff might not actually know what A&R does. I mean, and they might just think you guys just sign bands and that's all you ever do all day. Can you guys explain a little bit what you do at each respective job? Like besides signing acts or responsible for scouting talent?
Yeah, I'm in a very unique position in that I was with RCA for about 4 years, kind of grown up in the major label environment. Left RCA to completely do an indie thing, just because I needed some room. I needed to be able to develop things, not just to have it go straight to commercial radio, do or die. And then in the interim, I had Warner Brothers approach me and want me to do their Southeast A&R. So I've got this whole indie thing, and I'm definitely shameless self-promotion. I want to go forward with that because I get to nurture bands and I don't have to worry about radio right now. And 25,000 copies, definitely, I break even. Whereas a 500,000 a lot of times a major can't break even because it costs so much at that level. But I'm also out there looking for bands that are ready for a major. Some of them are beyond an indie. Some of them are ready to go out there and take on that radio world. And in every day, I think you tell me if this is true for you. I've seen the role of A&R change over the past 5 years, and that it used to be, knowing an attorney, knowing managers, knowing certain regions and what bands were popping, club owners, things like that, and them keeping me up to date. Now with the advent of Napster and MP3.com, and I spend a good portion of my week sitting in front of a computer, scrolling and really, trying to find out. So it's a lot of listening. You have to weed through a lot of crap. It's great. I love it. I love the technology because it's getting things to me that whereas before bands would have to spend a lot of time touring just to get the ears of an A&R guy. But so I do that, and I go out to clubs and I listen to demo tapes, a lot of listening. That's what I do. So.
Well, A&R stands for Artist and Repertoire.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much, that says, you identify the artist, you sign them, and then you work. In my case, I'm not a producer, and I'm not kind of a sucky musician, kind of a frustrated musician, so I work with the bands on their repertoire and which songs should be recorded, and I usually make them record 50 songs, and we'll pare it down to 15 for an album. So that is, in its most basic essence, what A&R is. There's a lot of other stuff that goes along with it, including babysitting and therapy sessions and all that kind of stuff. But so that's the basics of what an A&R guy does. You're kind of a talent scout on one hand, and then you also see the band's creative vision, help them to facilitate their creative vision within and without the label. You're also, you're the band's cheerleader within the label, so you've got to be talking to promotion and publicity and making them realize how stoked you are about this band, and there's got to be a reason for it, and make them see it so they can take it, they can pick up the ball and run with it.
And as a regional, you're definitely a liaison You're an important, because you're here in their area. Most of the time the bands are in your backyard. So, you know, they're looking to you a lot of times going, okay, what's going on at the label once you get signed?
Yep.
Pete, now you're obviously not officially an A&R rep, but you pass on.
I work with a lot of
material.
A&R people. I thought it like stood for alcohol in restaurants. That's all I ever do. It's like drink and go out and bullshit.
Alcohol and rehab.
Yeah, exactly. But if I just comment on what I view it as, it seems like it's really the connection between the artist and the label. It's their like man, their person, their guy that works at the company. If I'm wrong, that kind of represents the band, like you said. That when the artist wants something or wants something done through the label, they usually contact their A&R guy. But I guess you guys also scout out, you know, artists and try to sign them. But that's actually quite rare that you even sign anything. Right?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Most
I'm
A&R
lucky
guys-
if I sign 2 bands a year, and most A&R guys are that way. It's just so time consuming to sign and get the record recorded. The whole process is so time consuming that you can't really have 10 active bands. I'm sure some guys do, but as an A&R guy, it's very hard to juggle all that.
Like Clive.
Yes.
kinda did. That's about it.
Clive has people to do those things
Right.
for him.
What do you think's the single biggest pet peeve you get as far as a band coming up to you trying to pitch your music, and tell me something that's really caught your ear from a band where you went, wow, these guys got my attention for this reason and this reason only. Not necessarily that you signed or anything, but that possibly you went, I mean, there's the whole story Men at Work where they literally just kept blocking off the CEOs of the record label, you know, space every day. I mean, they broke in literally to get the attention. What's something, do you have any humor stories or anybody that's really tried to just get your attention that you thought was, wow, I should listen to this just because this guy's so
Yeah,
adamant?
there's certain guys, you look for people that have total confidence in their art, and some people, it'll never work. They've got total confidence anyway, but it's got to start somewhere.
They could be
So-
great radio guys,
Yeah,
promotion guys.
it's got to, they've got to come up to you like their shit is just, that's it, and you're an idiot if you don't listen to it. If somebody comes up to me like that, I'll listen to it right away. 9 times out of 10, I'm not interested. But that's just by sheer statistics. Even more, you know, less often I'm going to be interested. But you look for somebody with confidence and that really believes in their art. If somebody's like, you know, I think it's all right, but I don't know if it'll ever work, you know, that doesn't do anything for me. So
Do you know what I hate? I hate the, okay, here's our CD or here's our tape. You know, we only had an hour to do it, so just please excuse the sound quality. Or, you know, my drummer, he quit that day and we had to get somebody else. And I mean, come on, those are just pathetic excuses. If you really, because that's what you're going, it's the lack of confidence. If you're not confident in it, to just go, hey, this is the shit, man. You got to listen to this. You know, we play this much around town. We play this much in the region. You know, dig it. Get your ears on. If you don't like it, somebody else will. You know, it's that kind of confidence.
And another pet peeve is if a band you can just tell they're not doing, they expect to be able to make a demo and then go right into a major label situation and sell millions. And the odds are so squarely against any of us of finding the next Limp Bizkit or the next Creed that we're always looking for those signs that there's a spark in their hometown. So it really is up to each individual band to work it hard and do the flyers and get as many people going about their band, because when we come out to see you, you better have some people, you know, especially if it's in your hometown, you better have some fans there that are just going nuts, because that's infectious to an A&R guy. You start seeing dollar signs with every head going up and down. You're like, they'll buy one, they'll buy one, they'll buy one.
Right.
There's probably millions more just like them. So
And it's DIY. It's do it yourself. You know, I love the guys in Atlanta who I can go to a show. I can go to a hot show and I see, you know, a band they're promoting. And they're supporting other bands. You know, it's getting a network. I get so tired of that same old, you know, I'm out for mine, I'll get mine, you get yours kind of thing. I mean, you really have to pull together. You guys are up against a bunch of shit. I mean, you're in, you know, you're trying to break out of one area and get to the masses. You're trying to get attention, so you got to go out there and scream extremely loud. And the more people and the more bands together who are doing the same thing, the better. You know, the more attention you're going to bring to yourself. I mean, obviously, the best example with the past 10 years is probably Seattle. You know, how there was a certain sound. I mean, there hasn't been a certain sound that come from a region in a while. and that happened. Unfortunately, you know, everybody came in and kind of tapped it and then moved on. But I think that's extremely important. It's shameless self-promotion. It's making sure you're out there busting your ass. I hate, you know, the whole, we're going to wait until we get a label, or we're going to wait until we get a manager, or we're going to wait until we get a booking agent. You know, that's when it's really going to start happening for us. You know, if you can't make it happen yourself, chances are you're going to get in that major label system, and you're going to get eaten alive. Because if you don't know who you are at that point, I've got 2 examples. I signed a band called Trinket at RCA, and Mike actually worked with him. Mike signed Trinket years ago to Rimshot, and you know, they went in with a lot of hype. It was at a time when RCA wasn't. They had Dave Matthews at that point. There was no Eve 6 or Lit or Christina Aguilera or NSYNC. You know, they needed bands, and they came in and they got boosted. I mean, the label was so completely behind them, but they didn't know who they were as a band. And at that point, once you get in that system, you have a bunch of people there getting a paycheck who have to justify that paycheck, and they start telling you who you are. And if you don't know who you are and you can't tell them who you are, then they're going to make up who you are. And then you go down the hall to the next guy, and he's going to have his own idea who you are too. One thing, on one hand, you can't alienate these people, because these are the people who you really want to work your record. So you want to find a happy medium. You want to be able to say, hey, this is what I see. You know, this is how I see us working here. Do you have any input? You know, but most of all, you got to know who you are. And the only way to do that is to get out there and do it yourself. You know, in the very beginning, before there's ever a major label, I think, and I'll wrap this one up, but has anybody read Crazy from the Heat, David Lee Roth's book? Does anybody even know who David Lee Roth is these days?
I lost a bunch of money on him.
Yeah, he was, you know, in a band one time called Van Halen. Anyway, most of the book I think was bullshit, which he was always a great artist at that, you know, the delivery of bullshit, but it was very entertaining. But at one point he said, you know what, we were Van Halen, we got together, we recorded a 3-song demo, we sent it to everybody in the country, every label guy, and nobody called us back, nobody responded, so we finally said, fuck it. We went out and bought a PA system, we bought lights, and we started playing backyards, and we said, if you know, we're doing it right, they're gonna come. And that's exactly it. If you're doing it right, they're going to come. You know, with the advent of Napster and everything, I think bands are getting a lot of attention too early. And you get approached by major labels, you know, demo diaries. How many times does that come in your mailbox, your email box, and everybody starts calling? You know, I'll call a band, and I'm like, okay, I know you've had 30 other people call you, they're wanting a demo. You know, those things are great. It's good to get your little accolades on Napster and MP3 and things, but you know, you gotta build a solid foundation for yourself. And I'm telling you, we will come if you're doing it right. So that's it. Sorry.
I think that's a really good point that you brought up. It reminds me of back when I was first working with Limp Bizkit. They totally told everyone who they were. And they went to high schools and handed out flyers, and you put everybody on the guest list, and everybody was their friend. And they just basically willed themselves to success. That's the only way to put it, because they really, I mean, they just did it. They just said it, and they just faked it until they made it, and they're still faking it in a way. I mean, they're still doing, you know, that's what they're all about, kind of. It's like really like.
But they are definitely talented musicians
completely.
too.
Oh, they're awesome. They came into the demo like in 10 minutes. I mean, it was literally like
Right.
boom.
I mean, how many bands? You probably have plenty of bands working in a studio in Jacksonville that come to you that you've got to be thinking. I would think you shouldn't even be coming in to record something yet. You guys don't have it together. You should be able to come in and record this and not take, you know, days for one.
Yeah,
I know you're
I'm
producers, so I know you want to make sure it's as good as it can be. But I'm saying just the fact that they're not even nailing their parts. Yeah.
Well, that's important. Yeah, like you got to come in and that all goes back to not knowing who you are. If you can't play your music properly, then you don't have any business, you know, doing it. I mean, if you don't have your act together all around, you know, every aspect of it, including how to play, obviously, is probably the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, I tell a lot of local bands, I tell them to come here on the show. Bands that you don't recognize their name, they're probably from out of town. Come here, because the only reason I booked them was because they were good enough, and they're from out of town. They don't mean squat ticket sales wise, but they must be pretty damn good, because there's a zillion crappy bands from out of town that call me all the time about shows, and I just pass them up, because I can do a lot of crappy bands from Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And they'll draw people at least. So what I'm saying is, you got it. I mean, as far as going into the studio and recording your stuff, I mean, you shouldn't really be recording a demo until you know it's tight and you can do it. I mean, I would think.
Yeah, but there's one thing that is good though, is having the experience of the studio. Just so if it's the first time you ever go into one, don't expect anything. Just learn and take it in and realize, because I mean, these A&R guys and record companies, they call you recording artist, and if that's what you are, that's what your job's going to be, working for these companies. That's what you should be doing. You should understand what the hell's going on in the studio. You should learn, that you need to do this, this, and this, and it's not just you just don't play your song. That's it. You need to understand the medium that you're working with. And if you're going to be called a recording artist, then I think you should probably pay attention to what you're doing and learn from each experience you do go in the studio. So I think it's good to go in and record, but don't expect it. We're going to record right now.
And a lot of times, and understandably so, a band doesn't know they're not ready until they find out. You know what I mean? Right. They need a producer to say, go through at least a couple days and go, look, you suck. Come back later.
Hey, could I interject something, Tim? You guys all know John Kurtzweg, right?
Yeah.
He told me he's been doing this for a long time now, and Creed sold umpteen million records, and he's produced a whole bunch of other acts too. And he's researched the topic of what A&R wants, and he says, in his opinion, it boils down to the two most important things what A&R wants. And I'd like for you guys to comment on this. He says they want a hit song, okay? That's what they want, a hit song, and a good look. He doesn't mean they have to be good looking. They just have to look like something. He said if they have those two elements, a hit song and a look, says everything else can be built around that. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I do. It's a package. Any band I approach, I might see a band out, and they're just. I make no apologies. I'm very commercial when it comes to ear. I like things that end up on the radio for the most part. While I'm a little bored with radio right now, if it's there, normally it's because it's got some sort of hook, so I like it. I'm not very left of center. I'm not extremely alternative, but I might see some band that like damn, if they just had a little bit of guidance, they could be good. The first thing I'll always ask them is, what do you want to do? If you want to be successfully commercially, then there's some things we're going to have to do. It may be a look. It may be, the right sound or the right song. If not, they don't need me. They can go continue doing exactly what they want to do, and I'm fine with that. And they may go through that natural evolution process and one day be, their own thing. They may create a niche. But yeah, I think that is because we're very, very visual right now.
Yeah, a band can't be turning in a publicity photo to you guys looking like a landscaping crew.
Exactly.
They have to look like a band.
I mean, the only two things I want in my press pack that you send me is I want the CD and the photo. And you know what? I hate to say it, but most of the time I can look at the photo and tell I'm not going to like the music whatsoever. And I'm never usually wrong with that. Sometimes it is, it's a little different, but that's most of the time.
It's true. Sometimes it's even the image of as shallow and stupid as this sounds. I mean, if you've got a stack of CDs sitting in front of you, sometimes it's like cool artwork will get you listened to before just the white label. You know what I mean? I'll be like, oh, that's kind of a cool image. I'll check that out to see if it matches up with the music. That's happened to me that happened with 7 Mary 3. I thought they had a pretty professional looking package. This was back when I was in radio. I used to program JRR in Orlando, but and that's kind of how that happened. I went to that before I went to everything else that I was listening to, and heard Cumbersome, and then it took off from there. But you gotta hedge your bets.
Too.
But you guys think a band should work on their look?
Well, first and foremost, you've got to have the music. You got to have the songs. The look.
In addition to that.
Yeah. I mean, the two. It's never been any different. I mean, the Beatles were great-looking guys who had a look, and they all got the mop tops, and they created a sensation. The Rolling Stones, the same thing. I mean, you can look throughout the years. Jim Morrison, it wasn't just his music. While the music was definitely the integral part of it. I mean, he had the look. So it's never been any different. Yes, we're just more visual now. Whereas before the people didn't see him if it had to be in a rag, a magazine, occasionally on TV, and then live shows. Now you usually see them first, on TV, MTV, things like that. We're very visual. So I think it's always been a package at that level of commercialism. Once again, it just depends on what you want to do.
It is a package, and the image is important, but another thing I found in the music business is whatever you say, whatever we say up here, you'll be able to go find like exact opposites of what we just said.
Right.
And that's why it's not an exact science, and really nobody 100% knows what they're doing in the music business.
They did.
Myself
It would
included.
be.
Yeah.
It would rule the world.
But to find an example of the exact opposite, Collective Soul wasn't even a band when I started playing Shine in Orlando. That was just like a demo that Ed Roland, the singer and songwriter from Collective Soul, was sending around to publishing companies to try to get a songwriting deal. And as a last-ditch effort, they sent it out to radio stations to see if somebody would catch on to it. So and it was the shittiest artwork. It's actually the artwork that ended up on the Hints, Allegations, and Things Left Unsaid. I don't know, it's like a little clip art guy holding the sign that you can find in any clip art book.
It was the tracks too, right?
It was,
that ended up on the record.
Yeah, it was
Same
the tracks.
Yeah.
They just
Drum
remastered
machine.
it, put it out, and so in that case, it was the worst artwork I'd ever seen on a record that attracted me to it. I was like, I gotta, come on, this is bad. So, and luckily that worked out, and they put it, a lot of times, I guess what I'm saying is bands will rise to the occasion. If they've got a hit song on the radio and they've got a shitty image and half a band in place, it doesn't take long for things to get snapped into shit.
There's always an exception.
Well, what made me think, to me, when you guys start talking about image and all that stuff, which is definitely important, but it's also, it's not
first. I'm not even saying that. So
it's just interesting that if you remember about 10 years ago, the image was to have, hairspray, big old hair or whatever, and like wear makeup and you're a man, and like, your hair bands type thing. And then all of a sudden the image of Nirvana came along, which was no image almost. It was almost just like, which was an image. It's like a whole thing. So I don't think that people should take it literally, like you gotta go and like create an image. I think the most important thing it should be part of the expression of the music. You should care about how the band looks and how it's perceived on stage. You're giving not just music, but giving a whole everything. And it should be real. It shouldn't be like, all right, now go get some tattoos and, pierce your nose or whatever. I mean, you can do that if that's you, but don't do that just to be something else.
exactly, yeah.
So is A&R looking for somebody that just looks like Limp Bizkit or Papa Roach?
God knows. No.
I mean, yeah, are we going to make this worse? Or are we going to try and find, because I know that there are more tools out there, there are more Nine Inch Nails out there, and there is another Jimi Hendrix somewhere, and A&R's just not finding it. I mean, are they looking for it, or are they just looking for the quick?
Think about how few and far between those bands are up to this point. You know what I mean? They're out there. I totally agree, dude.
There's only one Rolling Stones.
Willing, one of us will find the next one, but there's just that kind of talent is just so few and far between. So there's got to be filler.
Yeah.
I don't mean to dismiss any band, but there's got to be filler in between that kind of.
There's always a couple that break through, and then everybody does follow after that. I don't know about Steve. I can speak for myself. I try my damnedest not to follow. I am not signing. I'm not even interested in a rap rock band right now. I mean, I'm just like done with the genre. I think, in comparison to the end of the hair band phase, when everybody said that Warrant and Pretty Boy Floyd and bands like that were the C bands, we have entered the C band phase of rap rock now. It's done. And if you're signing one right now, unfortunately, it's not going to see the light of day. And also, unfortunately, like bands like the Deftones, who quite frankly were pioneers in that, aren't being able to cash in, so to speak, because people have cheapened the genre. They're coming out now and they're kind of getting glanced over, like, okay, they sound like everybody else. And unfortunately, they were there first.
I agree and I disagree at the same time with that, because I do think it's starting to become a formula, and whether it's Crazy Town or there's like a look that bands are somebody's got to have dreads, somebody's got to have a shaved head, somebody's got to have it spiked.
It's NSYNC, but it's rock.
Yeah, it is. It's being adopted, and it's still probably kind of cool to the kids, I think. And,
yeah, it is.
It's cool to me. I'm still thinking about getting a tattoo. I got no ink on me whatsoever. I still want to get a tattoo, but I totally forgot what my point was. I was going somewhere.
Still working.
You're probably going to say, what, Scott, you're all right.
Yeah. No, that was what I was going to say, was the
I'm all wrong.
Rap rock, and I know a lot of people are tired of it, and then bands like Crazy Town keep on breaking, but also I think that hip-hop is just, it's not like swing or something. Hip-hop is part of the fabric of rock to me now. It's it's always going to be there. It's not like maybe not in the Limp Bizkit sense or the Crazy Town sense or whatever, but it's part of it now because
It's evolving.
it's evolving, and like I say, like something like swing is a fad that kind of comes and goes real quick. But this is now a part of it, and it makes total sense to me because all the rock up until just recently was based on basically like Muddy Waters and Robert Johnson, and that was a black art form that was adopted by white people like Led Zeppelin, and it just begat this whole. And now it's Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre might as well be Muddy Waters. Public Enemy and all of that. That's like the new core or foundation of where rock is headed. There's still room for blues-based rock too, and that'll all morph together. But to me, it's like a big part of it now, and it won't go away.
And it always comes back down to the song, no matter what. I can't honestly say I was original in this thought because I read it in a Mix magazine article with Rick Rubin, and he said that we're in a phase where everybody's writing the same song. And I'll go one step further, saying, yeah, I agree. It's anybody from Shania Twain to Limp Bizkit. It is a formula that's being plugged into right now. I've got a little band on 6 Mile Records called Favorite. That they're like a cross between Quicksand and Get Up Kids, who were 2 bands that I never really had heard before I met these guys. But they also mix a little Green Day and some more commercial stuff in there. And I remember going in and spending a whole day on one of their songs because I was going to release their EP. I was editing this song, okay? So I finally get out of there. It's like a 5.5-minute song, like 5 different parts. It was not the conventional verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, out type song that we're hearing now. So I finally leave. I leave the engineer in there. I come back at the end of the day, and he's like, okay, this is what I've done. I've gotten it down to 3.5 minutes, and we sit and listen to it, and we're like, God, if this song was written like this, yeah, it'd be a great, perfect radio song, but it wasn't written like that. And I realized right then and there why I love the band, because it was different. They still are hooky. There's like 3 hooks in every song, but they're spread out over several parts, and it's not so formula. And hopefully that's what we're going to see. I think everything, we every 20 years or so, it builds to a point where everything is in a nice, neat little box, and we have been that now. We've had rap and R&B, we've had rock rap, we've had rock, country, pop. All right, now I'm starting to see, with bands like At the Drive-In, creating a lot of attention. There's others out there. I'm starting to see a lot more tentacles kind of spreading out. So we're going to have maybe not so many 15 million sellers on the first and second records. We're just going to have maybe hopefully a lot of gold records, and we're going to have to get used to that. I hope, that's what I'm praying, that we're going to get some different genres, and then eventually somebody will break through that, the next Nirvana, the next Guns N' Roses, the next whoever, and we'll fall back in line. We'll try to do that same thing that they're doing. So I don't know, that's my
you said everything's like the same song. In my opinion, I think it's been the same song since forever, since radio's been out. I mean, it's always been 3.5 minute, same format. I mean, you can do variations of it, but it's always. I mean, you can look at the top 10 charts for the past 30 years, and not all of them, but most of them are that same song. So I don't think it's like some new thing.
No, it's not a new formula at all. No.
But like Nirvana, I mean, that song that broke them is as basic pop format as you could get. Right? So
It was just packaged in big.
exactly.
Heavy rock.
And everybody likes that song. I mean, that's what radio likes to play. It's good.
And it gave the image of being sloppy, even though it wasn't.
Maybe somebody should define the word hook, because you've used that several times, but maybe somebody should define that.
Chorus,
There you go.
Chorus. And I said, oh, that's a hook.
A hook for me is something you once again you walk away with as a listener. Again, I think it could be a guitar hook. That never can completely sell a pop song, but it's something that grabs you, and it usually has to grab you right away. I mean, come on, even if there's songs you hate on the radio, more than likely there's something about that first 30 seconds that you remember that song the next time you hear it.
Stupid 9 Days song, man. No one can deny that song had hooks throughout the whole damn thing. It was the dynamics of it.
I wrote a piece on this topic for a Musician's Trade Journal, and I even talked to some psychologists about this. And what I discovered, from my point of view, is a hook. You were saying it was the chorus. It's people want to sing along. People will sing it at church. People will sing at a funeral. People, group singing. People will sing driving their cars to work in the morning. If you can come up with a hook that will get people to sing it, I think you got a psychological hold on them.
Which, to touch on that too, I guess 5 years or so, dance, God, I'm missing the word, but prodigy, what am I looking for? That electronic music was going to save the music business, Unfortunately, the problem is with most of it, nobody could sing along, which is why it never became huge, It wasn't, you had a few, but it never, and Moby has even come around. Wow, he just has done some great tracks. He's come around to now he's including lyrics and hooks,
So if you're in traffic, you're stuck in traffic and you're looking over the car next to you, and there's a chick, a secretary coming home from work, and you see her lips going, she's singing a song. That's a hit record.
I saw it this morning happen to me. I was in Atlanta leaving bright and early this morning. Kyle was with me, the guy who books at 6 Mile Records, and I'm flipping through the stations because I just realized I'm never up this early on a Sunday morning. I just realized everybody's either doing some kind of mood format, or even the pop station there had a contemporary Christian format. So I'm flipping through. Finally, I get to this newer current station there, and Kodachrome is on. And I'm sitting there at the light, and I look over, and this guy's in this SUV, and he's sitting there, and he's singing Kodachrome. And I'm like, wow, that is pretty cool, So,
that's a fun game to play. That happened like a few months ago, probably 4 or 5 months ago. I was sitting at a light, and this chick was behind me, white girl, probably like 25. Just couldn't have been. She was just alone in her car, just like singing something. I'm like punching through the radio dial to figure out what I'm watching her to think. What shit is that? And it ended up being Shaggy.
It wasn't it?
It helps if a song has singability.
Yep.
Hey ho, who did that?
That's what a song is.
Jesus Christ, that's every rap show used to
Or every rapper at every live
That came from a song. That was in a song. I don't know what
Naughty
song
by
it was.
Nature. Yeah.
How about There It Is?
Yeah, there you go, another one.
I'm like really hardcore to this band called Perfect Circle.
Yeah.
That kind of thing reminds me more of not really writing a song for singability, but writing just a really good song. I mean, do you think that concentrating really on making it hooky and like radio and attractive is really what's going to do it?
No.
But that's a great example.
But that's a good example of what we were talking about earlier. There's always an exception. I mean, come on, Tool, they didn't have that exact same thing, and that's what Perfect Circle is sort of derived from. It's just a great moment. I mean, these guys have captured it. It's great parts, like he said, And in itself, there are hooks. I don't think he consciously sits down and says, "I'm going to write this song to compete with NSYNC and Britney Spears." But in his own roundabout way, he does.
I think that.
But that is also being in touch with who you are as a writer, musician, band. And either you can generate that hook that people are going to dig into, or maybe you can't. Sometimes it's learned, sometimes it's not.
So you say the natural ones that just come out of writing a really good song are better than those that someone consciously.
Totally.
Well, what's better? I mean, there's so many definitions of better. I mean, it's what you want. If you want, it goes back to the fact that we don't really know up here. All right, we know what moves us. And we can only hope that it's going to move somebody else. I know I've had things that's moved me, and you know what? It didn't. It didn't make it. It even made it to the level of getting radio play, and it didn't move the people who it needed to. And I'm sure, Steve, you can agree.
Yeah, all we know how to do is hedge our bets. And the artists that can do whatever the hell they want to, like Maynard, so few and far. It's like a bane to my existence, actually, because any band, I'm like, look, I need a verse, I need a pre-chorus, I need a chorus, I need a bridge, chorus. You try to explain the formula, because 99.9% of the songs that are hits, that's just the way it is. And they'll always go, what about Tool? They didn't do it that way. And I'm like, I can't argue with it, but then again, I know you ain't Tool.
They became very popular before they got airplay, too. You guys are thinking Tool just came around. I mean, the band's been around since the early 90s. I did shows with them in the early 90s. they were opening for a band called D. Kreutzen, which no one's ever heard of probably. Well, you might have, a couple industrial people might have heard of. But anyways, I mean, and that was after they had a record deal. They had a record out, didn't do anything. You know, I mean, it's like, the band is intense live. I mean, you know, Jane's Addiction on Triple X, no one paid attention to them in LA for a while. And it was like, you know, they were packing clubs, and they had an independent record label out selling okay. Warner Brothers finally broke down. I mean, I don't know if you were involved in Warner Brothers back then, but it's like, it kind of was like, okay, enough's enough. You're selling enough fucking tickets, we'll sign you. Right? Fish is probably the same way they got their deal. I mean, it's like, Fish does definitely not have radio songs, but they sell a shitload of tickets, so they're bound to sell some records too. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily that you have to have the song there. If you're selling out venues across the country, you're going to get a record deal along the lines too. And by then, you may not want to have a major deal because you might make more money putting it out yourself.
It goes back to if you're doing it right, that will come. And that's what I challenge all you guys to do, is go out there and if you're doing something different, if you don't think it fits into that box of, you know, commercial radio, then go out there and prove us all wrong, or, you know, prove the record guys wrong, prove radio wrong. Go out there and get the people. Ultimately, what everybody hopes to do is get people to buy your music so you can keep feeding your machine, right? And not what everybody, so you can keep playing your music. Go do it.
Hi, my name's Wally. Nice to meet you guys.
You too.
I just got just 2 questions for you. One, as far as like, cause there's really a lot of talent in this town in particular. We've been.
Use the mic. They probably can't hear you back there.
There's definitely a lot of talent in this town in particular, and we've recently just had the opportunity to go out town, and you know, there's definitely a lot of talent in the state of Florida, which I'm sure you guys know. But my first question is, as far as just any band in particular, the best information you could give any band to actually, because I don't think that, I know that our band doesn't know everything it takes to get anybody to come listen to us, and I'm sure there's a lot of bands out there like that. The best thing or the best advice you can give them to get your attention or to get an A&R's attention, whether it be radio play or just whether it be touring around, you know, as much as they can, or CDs, selling, or, you know, just pretty much just anything that they should be doing. And the second question, just if you guys, do you notice that as far as a certain style of music, what you think in your opinion is either going down or coming up?
I have, as far as doing your own thing, and yeah, what we've been preaching is make it happen yourself, and they will come. One specific thing to remember, and I even tell bands this, how important it is, and they still don't do it, and I just don't understand why they don't. It costs like $100 or whatever, is get a barcode, a UPC code on your CD, and when you put it in stores, don't just put, you've got to have that, because that's what, if you're familiar with SoundScan is what tracks CD sales. And the only way to get SoundScan is to get a barcode and then send that, the one that you're going to put on your CD, send that to SoundScan, and they link that to the name of your disc, so that when it's sold in a store, we can pull it up on our computer program, because, I mean, every band is going to tell you, oh, we sold 3,000 in our hometown. Like, really? Yeah, cool.
Of our last disc.
Of our last disc. How can I check that out? And it's just like, I'm telling you right now, we sold 3,000.
Incidentally, it costs $600.
See, how much?
It costs $600 to get a barcode now.
Really?
Yeah, it's expensive.
It's a one-time fee though, right?
Yeah, just to get the basic 6 numbers. But like, if you guys are in a, you know, if you pick up your local indie record label or whatever, if you call and go, hey, you know, I want to put out a CD, most of them will give you like access to the barcode, and then most of them can report, like sale shows, you know, they'll report the SoundScan. So
it's so important. It's so, if you're going to do your own thing, make sure you do it right.
And you can also, at your live shows, Brad, correct me if I'm wrong here, you can report to SoundScan the numbers you sold there.
it has to be verified by 2 people. It has to be like the bar owner, you know, and then it has to be something verifiable. But like we do all ours on Mondays, we fax the SoundScan.
And I read those. And Steve, I'm sure you read those too. I mean, I look at the numbers too in my region.
So you could actually like end up on.
Well, that's weird. You could actually end up on Billboard. I mean, possibly if you sell an ass ton of CDs.
An ass ton.
Without even being on a label, as long as you
No,
got
an
a
ass
market.
ton on Billboard. But you
An
can,
ass ton.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
there's That's certifiable, right? An ass ton.
Yeah, but you can chart on CMJ. I love that. I
If
like
you
that.
sold
You can chart on
25,000 in one
CMJ
week,
and
you'd be charted.
Yeah, and you charge things like that much easier.
No, CMJ is all radio mostly though. Like the radio charts, like the SoundScan and your numbers aren't going to affect. It's going to be directly sales.
But if you're looking to, as far as, your question was attracting A&R, we read those reports. I mean, literally the SoundScan reports I read every week in the region. So I know if you're moving 3 pieces or if you're moving 300 pieces, and I know exactly where you're moving it to.
And how much you're moving it.
Yeah, and how much you're moving.
Yeah, I've noticed on the market that a lot of the songs I hear on the radio they're actually covers. And I talked with Mike about this before. But my question is a cover song, a really good cover song that the band does, is that something that A&Rs would look for on the demo, or is that something they produce themselves, or something they collaborate with the bands once they have in fact been signed, or is it something that's good for an A&R to hear, basically, is what I'm curious about.
Yeah. Actually, it can, if
Orgy.
a cover is, orgy, but a cover, as far as unsigned band having a cover, that can shed a lot of light of what a band is capable of and what they're really about. Because most of the time, an unsigned band or a young band, that'll actually be their best song, because it's great. I'm sure that you pick like a really good song or a song that you admire. So yeah,
It's very dangerous, though.
It is.
Be careful.
Yeah.
If
I like it because I
like
can-
Steve said, if that's your best song, it's not a good thing.
I like it because it gives you, I don't even know how to put it, but it definitely
It's familiarity.
sheds more light
like,
on what a band is capable
It
of.
can get you immediate attention.
Right.
So, for sure.
You don't need to put 10 songs on, and a beginning band doesn't need to put out a full-length album, in my opinion. They can just put out their 5 best songs, quality, not quantity. Don't spend as much money in the studio on 10 songs or 15 songs. Spend twice as much on 5 songs. Sell them on your gigs, 5 songs. Give the A&R guys 5 songs, but make them your 5 best songs, right?
agree.
I agree 100%.
Don't waste the money on 10 songs.
And you can sell it cheaper. That way you can sell it more.
Yeah.
So
Good
it
point.
makes perfect sense.
An EP, in other words.
Yeah.
And if I get a full album from somebody, a full CD with 12 songs on it, and they didn't mark which songs I'm supposed to listen to, it's like you might as well not even send it. I mean, if I have time, I don't have time to listen to a whole CD, and I'm sure, you put your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and you think every song deserves a shot, but get an objective ear, somebody to go, you know what, these 3 songs, mark them on the disc. But ideally, what Michael's saying is true, just 4 or 5 songs, but not an EP.
Yeah, don't waste your money on the B-sides and the filler and the album cuts. Just put out 5-song EP of singles.
And to touch on something Steve said too right there, he's not being an ass when he says I don't have the time to listen to or go find which songs, are the best songs. Sometimes when you're laying out a full 10, 12 song CD, you're thinking an album, this is how it would flow, the sequence and everything. We don't know that, and we get a lot of stuff, and it's hard to listen.
And you don't care.
And I try to listen on Mondays and Friday evenings, I'll grab a beer or something, I'll turn my phone off, and I'll sit there for about an hour and I'll listen. Because if I try any other time and the phone's ringing or people are stepping in, I'm in a studio in Atlanta upstairs. It's a very busy studio. People are in and out of my office, I can't listen. It's not fair to you. So if you tell me which songs to go to right away, which ones you're thinking, I'm going to trust your judgment. I'm going to go to those songs. If not, chances are we'll pop the first couple ones in if those weren't the ones that you meant for us to listen to.
Always put your first song be your best song.
Or
Always.
designate. I'm all about laying out an album. If you're going to do a full album, I'm all about laying it out in an album style. But tell us which ones to go to.
Hi, I'm Corey Shea, independent producer around here. How often do you take mixes as they are? Like a band will hand you, say, an EP or even a full album, and you'll just take the songs as they are. I think Collective Soul was mentioned, that it wasn't even remixed or re-recorded or anything. Because the band that I've been producing, Clone Defect, over here, we have some 4 great songs that sound absolutely phenomenal, I think, and don't need anything else. But
Of course you would think that.
Yeah.
You mixed it.
Of course I did. So how often do you take things as they are?
Absolutely. I mean, I absolutely can. You know, if it's a great song or the parts are there, quality can be shitty and it still shines through. You know, and then there's the other hand where you may spend a bunch of money and you go in and you don't have that. And it sounds great, but it's just not there. I get more of it sounds great, but the songs are nothing's there, nothing's exciting, nothing's emotional at all than I do, you know, the ones that are the pretty crappy demos. So yeah, no, I trust that I can possibly listen through that.
It could definitely go both ways. The 7 Mary 3 comes to mind. Your question brings up 7 Mary 3 because, again, I was in radio when they sent that, and I used to play the original version of Cumbersome, which is like a 6-minute, really shitty sounding demo. It didn't sound good, but for some reason it sounded good enough. You know, but it was a hit song. It doesn't most of the time, it's kind of hard to screw up a hit
That
song.
opening riff, just the da-da,
Yeah, and
it just grabs you right away.
It used to be acoustic.
Kind of
It used to be
smithereens-ish.
zing, zing. It was totally different. And then they went, they got signed, and they, of course they were keeping the loop and everything. And they're like, yeah, we're going to re-record it. And this was after Collective Soul had happened, and they didn't re-record Collective Soul Shine. They just put it out. They remastered it and put it out.
Ed hates that to
So I
this
was like,
day.
what are you doing? This is the one that's the hit on my radio station. You shouldn't be, don't fuck with it. I mean, it's a hit now. So they went and did it, and also that's another thing about music is, you know, once you're familiar with something, if it's different, you just don't like it. And they sent me the new one. It was like clang, clang, clack, 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 clang, and I was like, no. I was like, you messed it up. It's not a hit now. But it was a hit. It was a hit, all right. You know. So
Can I point out something on this? Kurtzweg again told me that a lot of times the labels will want to re-record stuff because they're not sure if there's any liens on this or any unpaid bills or who actually owns it. There's not always a clear title to it. You may have a studio come out of the woodwork saying, hey, they owe us money, the tracks belong to us, and the band says, no, they belong to us.
That's true.
So nobody has a real clear title on it. So a lot of times labels will re-record stuff just to make sure there's a clear title, even though the second version is not as good as the first version.
Right.
They just want to make sure who owns it.
Not for that same reason, but John and I ran into a problem like that because he produced a project I had signed to RCA, and there was one song that we pretty much, you know, I liked what the group, where they were going, but there was one song in particular that everybody just said, yeah, hell yeah. And the band went in one day. The demo of that song was they went in one day, the singer, who was always very stiff in the studio, took a couple of shots of Jack, and he went in and just nailed it. I mean, even wrote the lyrics on the fly right there. And to this day, they have yet to be. We recorded that song 3 times, and they can't get it right. You know, even John, he couldn't get it right. He couldn't capture that demo thing. So
Lounge
it was a
Fly.
hit before.
Lounge Fly.
Yeah.
But even if they, because like Creed, me and Corey listened to some of the Creed, you know, before they were signed, that was done and produced, and the only thing that was really different was just the drum, like the compression on the drums and the way the drums.
Atlantic wanted to put that out as is, am I right?
They were the same tracks.
I think they only redid the drums on like maybe 4 songs, and then everything else was just a slightly different mix.
So if a label simply remasters it or does like a few little changes, maybe that would give them the new title that they need. Or I mean,
No. If the studio comes out of the woodwork and says they didn't pay us, it's done in my studio. I did some demos for Trinket.
Mm-hmm.
If they'd gotten released on RCA, I could have come out of the woodwork and said, you know what? The band doesn't own these tracks. I own these tracks. You pay me.
Right.
And the label doesn't need that kind of headache.
well, how does that work though? I mean, how does that work? Was there any contracts signed between you and a band? I mean,
Yeah, it's called a receipt.
But there also has to be some sort of stipulation as a re-record clause or something like that to keep them from absolutely never recording that again without.
I had this when RCA finally paid me for those tracks. I did come out of the woodwork and said, you know what? The band doesn't own these tracks. I own them. So RCA paid me for the tracks. I had to sign a release.
Right.
So I gave up my ownership. But these things can happen, and that's why the labels will re-record stuff.
But if you go in, you pay a studio to record 3 songs, you pay them, you get your tapes, you go. The studio's got no ties to that stuff. So
Yeah, but in this case, they have
if
to owe me
you
money.
pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta pay your bills.
and ask you how important, if at all, is it to you that a band has also paid attention to itself as a business? Do you prefer that they come in, and if they're a partnership, they've got a written agreement? If they're incorporated, well, obviously that would be a written agreement. But is that important to you guys, either coming in or shortly after you're interested in them?
I'm sure, Steve, you agree. I mean, it's not going to stop me if I love the band and it's a hit and they haven't taken care of their shit business-wise. You know, I'm not going to not want to be involved with them. But you know what? I've sat around a table before when there's money coming into play, whether even be it initial advance money or whatever, and guys are going at each other's throats going, no, I wrote this. You know, oh, no, you didn't. You weren't even in the room. I think it's very important you take care of that, you know. So who owns the name? You know, things like that. Is it, you know, a joint venture type of situation?
It's not a deal breaker, but it's really important.
It is important. And it's more attractive if they have treated it
These
like
things
that.
never matter until there's money involved.
Oh,
and then
exactly.
they matter.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't care if it's $5. If they're going to split it 4 ways, you know, somebody's wanting that extra little share. So.
I'm John Shelby. I play harmonicas here in town and been on down the coast. I'm a utility player. I've been involved with a band where CBS had a check signed, ready to go. 3 guys showed their ass. They said, "Thank you, gentlemen." So my time, my quality, and what I've really wanted to accomplish was for the tubes. Do you folks have an interest in utility players in a sense where you can market them throughout other areas of the labels? I'm looking to do commercial, background tracks, movie tracks, and anybody in here need me?
Where's the plug bell? We need a plug bell. Ding ding.
Yeah. And I've done some tracks. You're talking about the what you heard on the highway coming down. I'm on the I-95 Asshole song. Jamie Lee Curtis put it in the movie.
Right.
I don't have a Cadillac from it. I just, you know.
Right.
It looks nice on the credits, but I did it.
Utility players are used rampantly. It's usually a work for hire
But are you going to listen to
situation.
me on Friday night when you're kicked back having a beer? And do I send you this stuff and you'll give it a listen and say, oh, this is just a hard player club. I'm looking for a band. Am I wasting my time here is what I'm trying to find out.
Wow, that's a really good question. And I don't know the answer.
Live near New
It
York
depends,
or
on,
LA?
it depends on what you're wanting out of your time. If you're promoting yourself as a utility player, then absolutely you want anybody to hear you. If you're coming to me saying, hey, I'd like a record deal myself as a utility player, then it comes down, once again, everything we've been saying. Songs, you know, viability, that kind of thing. So,
Give it a shot.
yeah, I listen to anything, and I will.
You give me a card. I'll
Takes me a little time, but I will listen and respond.
What a guy.
Next.
I just want to ask you real quick again, something about press packs, because that's one thing that a lot of us find that when we read up on labels or publishing companies, things like that, they want press packs or of that nature. What do you consider overdone as a press pack or underdone as a press pack? Or is it even important to include a press kit or anything like that along with a CD?
For me, all I want is a CD and a photo.
CD and a photo.
I agree with the club promoter.
And a cover letter with your email, preferably address on there, and you know, some way to contact you.
And you know, relevant press, just common sense. If it's
Right.
if it's a reputable publication, not only include a copy of it, but I like it when they highlight like key phrases, like you know, say if it's a big. Again, I don't want to sound like a jerk, like I don't have time to read your stuff, but you know, I'm going through a lot of packages, so if you can highlight key phrases in there, like this band will be huge. those kind of phrases I'm looking for.
But you know, there's kind of 2 questions and 2 answers there. If you're asking us what we want, that's one separate thing. If you're asking what press wants, always remember that 9 times out of 10, even on the sign level, your bio is what. If you're coming into town and you know the rag, they haven't interviewed, they don't know anything about you, they're going to grab a couple of key phrases out of your bio. Right, so bio is important at press. It's just for me. Once again, it's a photo in the CD, and from there, if there's anything that I want more, I will contact you. You know, if not, it's just going to be a waste of a tree, and it's going to go in my trash, and you know. So.
Thanks. When y'all are looking for a band, y'all like what they have. Y'all said 50 songs, cut them back down to 15. Do y'all look for a band with a lot of songs, or do y'all work in the studio with them?
A lot of songs to begin with? Not necessarily. That's my job. That's how I do my job, is I push him to record as much as possible. And it's always better to cherry pick the best songs than it is to go, well, we've got 13, let's pare it down to 12. You know, it's much better to have, you can be better off to come up with a great album that way. That's my philosophy.
Anyone else?
It seems like everyone now is into more of the rap rock or mainstream rock. What about the lower, like someone said, what styles of music are going up and what styles of music are going down? Around here, there's a lot more sub-types of music. Like, we got punk rock, we got emo, we got the new kind of hardcore, hate group and stuff. It's not really metal. What about those? Do y'all bother listening to those? Or do y'all just mainstream?
No, I listen to everything.
Yeah.
I'm sure you listen to everything.
Mm-hmm.
I know he does. And it's kind of like, and you actually had a B part to your question that we never got to, like what's going down and what's coming up, and you know, everybody's got theories, but nobody knows. But you know, hopefully we know it when we hear it.
It's up to you guys to create that.
I'm intrigued by emo, and I know there's shitload of kids at the shows that I go to, and really passionate about it. So logically, it makes sense. You're like, yep. That could definitely be it. But then again, electronica made a lot of sense too.
What do you call it? A drive-in?
Emo core?
Yeah,
they're
Is that what it is? I don't know.
They're
I just
definitely
dig
emo
it.
band, but they're definitely different from the genre in general.
And they may be one of those bands that, you know, they're opening a door.
I think totally are.
Yep.
I totally see that on the horizon. Yeah. To me, at least. I mean, that's.
I mean, there's definitely like Jane's Addiction in there too. I mean, there's so many things that have happened that they're just kind of putting together and creating their own thing. And I think that's the most important, rather than worrying about, you know, what's coming up, what's going down. Just look at all the things that you have dug and try and, like, you know, you can't be original in the sense of being original. Everything now is derivative. Everything has been derivative for forever. You know, it's borrowing and putting into your own form. And that's how you become original. Which I think, you know, bands like At the Drive-In, most every band who's come along and just busted the doors open. That's what they did. They just combined a lot of things. Most of them were pretty bad at covers, and they couldn't do covers, you know, verbatim. Thank God. And what they would do is they would just try to play all the bands that they loved, and it just kind of morphed into this cool thing.
I mean, that guy at the drive-in is a great fro. I mean,
I saw them. I saw them in
intense.
Austin last year, and they just blew me the fuck away. I'm sorry. They were just
They
like,
got a look, too.
Whoa! I mean, they're just so energetic on stage. You know, I still think they're like, as far as the writing and stuff. If you want to look at like a commercial sense, I think they're a ways away from that. But they've moved a couple 100,000 pieces so far.
What label are they on?
That's really cool. They signed to Grand Royal.
Beastie Boys label.
Beastie Boys label.
Capital Distributor?
Capital, yeah.
Not many people paid attention to the Beastie Boys in the beginning either.
Thank
Maybe
you.
those guys are seeing something there. Anyone else? Questions?
I just got one thing to add about y'all's answer for him about the press pack. One thing, if you send in a CDR and you put a label on it, put a phone number on the CD.
Please.
On the disc itself.
Thank you, Kyle. Yeah.
Everything else.
Yeah. I have
everything.
Don't take for granted that the CD is going to stay with the package.
Because it
Definitely
doesn't.
won't.
If you saw my desk right now, you would be heartbroken. Because I'm going, God, where's that?
I mean, on the disc itself.
Yeah, on the disc.
Because it's like, I mean, we'll lose
Everywhere
the
you
jewel
can
case,
put
we'll
it.
lose everything.
Yeah.
And
Except
include
for
an
that
email
music.
address. I don't know. You guys tell me. I know. Include an email address. You're more than likely going to get some sort of response from me first with an email address. Like, if you've got an email address in there, and I get the package, at the end of every day, I send out, thank you very much, I got the package. It's going to take me 6 to 10 weeks, but I will respond. All right? If there's an email address. Chances of me picking up the phone and telling you I got a package, I'm not going to do it, so.
I got one question. I would like each one of you guys to give me your real opinion and not, you know, consult on this and not hedge your bets. What do you think is going to be the next big thing? Your real opinion.
Real opinion?
Yeah.
I think we're going to rock and roll. Is that what we're talking about, rock, or are we talking about
Pop music in general.
pop? Oh, wow, that's just so hard. For me, I'm going to go with rock, okay? this is what I hope is the next thing, and this is what I foresee. I think now that we've been introduced with big guitars again, loud, we got riffs going on with Rage and Korn and Biscuit and so many others. I hope that it's going to move from that into more of a songwriting form rather than so much, like I said, I'm kind of, it's hard to tell the rap rock bands apart from each other now. So I'm hoping now somebody's going to come along with melodies and add to this same aggression that's going on, and we're going to have a new rock form. As far as pop music will always be pop music. It's whatever looks right and sounds, the easiest, the most palatable. I think that's what will always be pop.
I agree with everything Scott just said, and I also, that's all I have to say. Non-committal answer. But also, I'm excited by bands like Coldplay that are really starting to happen, and that's obviously just unbelievably great melodies, and as an appreciator of great melodies, I think that that's very exciting. And I also think that we'll hear more of things like Everlast, more like almost like a folk, bluesy, hip-hop, and really rootsy American sound with a hip-hop sensibility. I think that'll keep coming.
And if you're going to go into the urban hip-hop side, you're going to have to beat Outkast. And I'm sorry,
Holy
B.O.B.
shit.
I mean, those guys have always been ahead of their genre, but
so
I mean, you can't get any faster than B.O.B. I don't think. That is just, the record's great. So anyway.
Yeah. I agree with you guys to a certain degree, but I have a really distinct feeling that music like the At the Drive-In that you brought up, and maybe Coldplay, definitely Radiohead, music that's real, that's really it's not contrived, it's not trying to be this image that has already been set in motion. And that's what happened at the end of the 80s and early 90s. That whole thing that was started with, I guess, kind of like almost with Kiss, but dressing up and dancing around.
Be careful. I'm a big Kiss fan.
Shooting fire or whatever.
Out your ass.
I think that I really, really think that music that is from the heart, this sounds kind of generic, but I really think that and it's tied to an image, and the whole thing is an expression and it's really good too. I think it's going to be there. It's going to be a little bit heavy, but it's not going to be these humongous crunchy guitars with, I think it's just going to be a little bit less predictable than what the rap rock stuff's doing right now.
It goes
and
back
a little
to
bit different
that.
sound, a little more raw, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, okay. I want to ask a question here because you're a producer, Pete. Mm-hmm. You're in the studio all the time. I'm in and out of the studios myself. I can hear Pro Tools, I can hear Auto-Tune, I can hear all of that, and it's done to death. And like right now, the records I'm cutting are all the guitars and the drums go to 2-inch first. Mm-hmm. And you get such a more warmer, raw vibe. We're not sitting there fixing every little note. Do you see us moving a little bit more away from the perfect format of sitting there? I know as producers we've started. We see music now. We don't listen to it. We're sitting there looking at waveforms and we're not listening to it.
I've always said this about that program. Like 7 years ago, I was always like, this will be a great way to write a song and to try it out and to record it in the computer and arrange it and mess with it. And after you do all that, then go record it on the 2-inch the right way. But it's great for arranging. That's what's so cool. And everybody's got a lot of money. They want to be able to try different arrangements of songs and ideas in tuning, and they don't have to get voice lessons. It's just a shortcut. Right? But I definitely think that like the Papa Roach record I just mentioned, that thing sounds Pro Tool to death to me. It sounds great, but it sounds like computer.
You hear every note cut off.
Yeah, exactly. There's no amp noise, and what the hell? What planet is that recorded on?
Exactly.
It's too perfect, right?
In a way, and I think that
selling. But that was part of this genre. That was part of what we just went through. We went through very perfect music, and I hear a rumbling. People are a little tired of that, but once again, it's not up to us to go out and create that. It's up to you guys to go out and create the next thing that's on its way up, as I've heard a few times here. So.
Problem with perfection is it's predictable.
Yeah. NSYNC's predictable. You know what? They're going to do another $1 billion this year. I predict that.
They're crying all the way to the bank.
As far as the local scene goes here in Jacksonville, what would be the best method to get A&Rs to come to more local showcases? Because I think this is great. This is phenomenal because I've been on the scene for several years, and this is like really informative and everything. And what do you have to do what's the best method of getting labels to come out to like big local showcases of, 10 and 15 bands? Because there's been several showcases here that I have never seen labels come out to or anything. I think it'd be a real big motivation to every musician here to happen in like showcases.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to say this earlier because this is something I really see a lack of. And I started this conversation earlier. It's bands pulling together. If there's bands, okay, this is an all-ages club, right? Tremendous. See, we have a lack of that. There's an all-ages deficit in Atlanta. I mean, we have 21 and up, and I'm sorry, but the 21 and up crowd are not your genre breakers. They're not the ones who are actively out there seeking music. While it's great to have their support, that's a problem we have in Atlanta. We cannot get the kids who are out there discovering the next things into the clubs. But what can happen even in that scene, and what should even happen here, is the band, 4 bands pull together who all have a draw of 100 in a club like this. Let's even take it down 50 to 100. You pull together 4 bands. You all take $25. You go in. You don't do a Kinko's flyer. Everybody's seen the rave flyers. How nice are those damn things? I mean, those things make you go, damn, man, I'd like to go to this. This is nice. A glossy 2-side flyer with, it catches your eye. It's like this big. You all pull together. You all use your promotional dollars, who are $25 a piece. If you can't afford that, you know what? You're going to have problems anyway as the future goes on. So you got $100 there. You get a nice handful of flyers, maybe even more. And you put on a show like that, and as a collective effort, you go out and promote shows as a collective effort. When I say promote, I mean promote. For $75 at most high schools, you can, as long as there's no profanity or anything like that involved with your music, you can buy an ad or you can insert a flyer. You can give them 1,500 flyers, and they'll insert it for you for $75, and that usually gets to anywhere from 1,200 to 1,500 students with a free distributed paper or a 50-cent paper. All right, now those are the kids you're trying to get to come out and see this show on Saturday night. So you go do things like that. It's just about being creative. Chances are you're not going to get radio at this level. You don't want it right now anyway. You want to make radio's ears go, God, who the hell is this? I heard they had a line around the corner like they used to in Seattle, on a Thursday night or a Friday night, and 4 local bands. So I think the biggest thing is I don't know how to tell you to attract our attention other than make some noise. Because I promise you, the 3 guys that are up here have their ears to the street, and I'm going to know, I know enough people throughout this region, that if there's something going on here that I need to be involved in, I'm going to know it. And I'm sure Steve and Pete can say the same exact thing.
And I get invited to a lot of showcases of bands I never heard before, and whoever's organizing the showcase, and Mikell and I have talked about this before, it's like, throw some songs in a sampler and send me a piece of each band so I know if I'm interested at all. I mean, it sounds easy, why don't A&R guys come to our shows? If I haven't heard your music, I'm probably not going to leave the house. Unless, of course, we're talking about a story like Scott is saying, and sometimes you just hear about shit and it's just blowing up and there's nothing you can do about it. It doesn't matter if you heard it or not, you got to go check it out. But I'm amazed at how many showcases get put together and invitations go out to A&R people and nobody's heard any music, and I'm not going.
And not only that, we were the only ones who got the invites. Nobody went out and informed anybody to come see the show. When I first started out in this, I was just so gung ho. I was like, I'm going to go see every band. Yeah, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to do that because I was in a band. So I wanted to support. But after a while, you know what? You get jaded. When you've gone out and you've seen things that you haven't heard before, and it's just absolute, I'm sorry, crap, because the band didn't have the foresight of really putting a package together, putting themselves together. You get jaded sometimes. You don't know what's good, what's bad. You just know, God, man, this is the 4th night this week I've been out in a smoky club, and I've had a few too many to drink, and I've seen 10 bad bands. So.
And just to cut you guys a break, don't you have a mountain of shit on your desk that's going to take you 5 years to listen to, really?
Yeah. And people are calling, I say 6 to 10 weeks, and it gets longer. And I hate it. The other day I finally went through and I pulled out some packages that had been there a year, and I hated that. Fortunately, it wasn't anything, after I called a couple of them, they were like, that's okay, we broke up, But yeah, it's like that for me. I know it is. I mean, I'm listening for 2 different labels, so it's not just one.
Conflict of interest.
No.
I mean, just do it yourself. I mean, At the Drive-In didn't have this major record label push. I mean, they've been around for a while now. I mean, they played Damien, what's his name, that owns Strip Mine. I don't think his last name, he works for me. Anyways,
Damien Lee.
Damien Lee, yeah. He owns a record store. He did At the Drive-In 2 years ago in the back of his record store. I mean, they were touring then. It's like they're just being heard now because of Grand Royal and the push they're getting. But, get out there and do it yourself. Put out your own record. If you can't find an indie label to do it, just get out there, play enough shows, save enough money, and do it. Make a buzz. If anyone else had a question?
Okay, one more obvious thing that I think hasn't been mentioned is the Napster phenomenon. Business-wise.
Napster show here. If you're here, you can come to the show for free. Just sign your name at the door. I'll let you in free tonight. There's a Napster band playing tonight. They're on tour, sponsored by Napster.
The Rosenbergs.
Plug.
Okay, has Napster hurt the music industry? Has it hurt your business, like you personally? Do you think it's going in a good direction, or does it not really matter?
I think it's, oh my God, it's like talking about religion, It's just like, there's so many different ways to look at it. It is. But speaking first personally and professionally, I use Napster all the time. And I'm probably not even really supposed to say that, but I do, because it's all out there and it's awesome. It's not even about unsigned bands, and I want to see if anybody's trading it on Napster, which is a good indicator. And if you see a shitload of people that all have those files on their computer, that's kind of one of those things you go, huh. And sometimes you're trying to think, even if you're just trying to think of a song that like this unsigned band might sound like, or you might think that riff is from this other song. It's like, duk, 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 and I've got a cable modem, and soon we'll all have cable modems, and it's just like, what a great tool it is. And of course, but commercially, and it's potentially very dangerous as it is right now to the music industry, because it can't be free. It can't be free. Music can't be free. I know that sounds like a really noble thing to say. Music is free, but it can't be free. There's just no way. There's no way to support. It's obvious why it can't be free. So now,
make a living.
Yeah, the artists can't make a living, and unfortunately, I wish the RIAA would do some marketing so that the average record consumer, because the average record consumer justifies it by saying, well, we've been getting ripped off by the record companies for so long, $20 a CD and only 2 good songs, and the whole thing that everybody knows is true, and you take your risks when you buy a CD, and it's a lot of money to plunk down. But I wish that the RIAA would do a public service announcement and put a face of the artists to the songs, and not, because that's all these people are seeing when they're downloading music for free. They're like, to the labels. And essentially, it's the artists that they're hurting, because the labels pay the artists. So that's the end of the line, and I wish we could raise awareness on that, because
it should be licensed exactly. I'm a huge fan too, and I'm a huge user, and I love it. And good God, it's amazing technology. And the kid that came up with the technology never in a million years thought he was going to create such a controversy. Now the VCs who funded him, I think they've been doing the whole spin doctor thing, and they've been taking this thing through courts. That way, Napster now is a household word. So, and they've gotten us sucked in. Everybody remember the ATM card when it first came out? Remember that? How it was free no matter where you used it, and then you got sucked in. You had to have your money right when you wanted it, and then it's $1.50 here, and in some places it's $4. We won't name those places.
It's working.
But you get to the point where you got to have that money, so you're going to get it out no matter how much you have to pay. And I think the VC is definitely intended to do that with Napster, and they've got us sucked in. I think it's a great tool, and I think just like radio's not free to radio. I mean, the music they play there, they have to pay performance rights organizations, and I think that's the same exact thing that should happen at Napster. Now, on the other hand, that's with signed artists who choose not to have their stuff distributed for free. All right, now, people like you who are here, and you're like, man, that's such a great tool for me to get my stuff out there. You know what? You will probably, I foresee, you'll be the content providers, at least a quarter of it, if not more, because you'll be willing to put your stuff up there for free. So it'll kind of be a choice thing. But I think And I'm with Steve. I think you should have to pay something for it. Does anybody who uses Napster here? Do you use it? How do you use it? Use it to research, to find out your favorite bands, to trade? I mean, however you use it, I mean, why should it be free?
There was an interesting thing that Pete Thornton and I did just recently, which was kind of I guess a relatively unique use for it, is Pete did a project for me. He was doing this development deal with a band out of Mississippi that we were doing. Anyway, I wasn't up here at the time, and he had just finished some stuff, and I wanted to hear it, so he converted one of the songs to an MP3, and I think because he's on AOL, he couldn't email it. You know what I mean? It depends on the server whether you can email an MP3, because a lot of servers don't handle it. So we're like, and so he's there with the song in Jacksonville. I'm in Orlando. I'm like, how can I hear this now? You know, I want to hear it now. And the email thing wasn't working. And then we're like, name it something really unique. Put it in your Napster file. I'll open up Napster, and I found it right away and downloaded it that way. So I mean, those are like, that's just like something cool. Yeah, it was really cool. We felt really smart, like we'd really have something.
Anytime I could do it, it'd be smart. But you know, while right now it's a tremendous tool for you guys sitting here, if you're out there and you're selling records, and it's a matter of, I don't think it hurts record sales. Okay, I really don't. I think if anything, now people can go on and find out more about a band. And I, for one, maybe I'm old school. I like to still own the CD. I still like the whole process, but if you're downloading it, I think there should be some, not a per download fee, but I think there should, just like AOL, you know, I think to be able to sign on to that server, to be able to sit there and utilize that, I think there should be a fee, and in turn, that fee should go back to the artist.
Christ's sakes, you got to pay for cable radio.
Exactly, you got to pay for, you got to pay for everything, come on. Why should music be absolutely free? Somebody is trying to make a living, or at least support their means.
How much is cable radio? How much is cable radio?
You mean satellite radio?
Satellite radio?
No, cable radio.
Well, it comes with the cable, right?
Right.
I don't know.
DirecTV, okay, you're looking at what, from $29 to $49 a month for a basic package, all right, to get that to come in, you know, you pay that once a month. You know, I don't think Napster, they'll definitely, it won't be that expensive, it can't be that expensive.
MP3.com is a good route to take too, because it actually pays the artist for each download. I think that's a much better way to go.
Yeah.
You can
Do they really? I still don't know. I mean, I don't know if they do or not. I mean, I'll sign on to some popular bands in my region. I see they've earned like $1,000-something worth of MP3 dollars, and I don't know whether that's like crystal dollars or what is that. I mean, can you what do you buy with that? I mean, do they really cut you a check?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, but see, they just lost their lawsuit too, you know, because it's fine when the bands are giving consent to that, but when the bands aren't giving consent, it should be a choice.
Hey, can I ask you guys something? Have you heard of, I was just out in Oregon, I visited this place. It's called CD Baby.
Yeah.
Have anybody else out here heard of it? It's really cool. And this guy focuses on independent releases, no major label, nothing. And he distributes them and gives you like a little website and your picture and your bio, and will sell your CD and warehouse it at his warehouse in Oregon, and give you like cards to hand out at shows that has the web address, and they can go buy your CD with a credit card or with whatever, and then he pays you. I mean, I think if you sell 5 records, you start getting paid. And he takes $4, and you can sell it to him for whatever you want. So he sells it for $8, you make $8 a record, he sells it for 12. And provides you with all this stuff. And there's bands that make $40,000 a year just through CD Baby. And they, like I said, they warehouse it and they give you a spot on their webpage and all that. So you should check that place out.
Be creative.
Does he have a distribution license on the site?
Yeah, I guess he does. That's what he is. He's distributing through the website. And in fact, he's about to take over Farm Club, all their stuff. We'll start doing that. So that's going to be pretty big for him. Hasn't gone through yet, but that's what they're saying.
This is the last question right here, down here.
How easy is it to get a distribution deal? You already got your shit printed?
Distribution, P&D?
Press? Yeah, just somebody to put it out there.
With a major or with an indie? Or
With an indie or a major, just anybody to get it out into the stores. Like,
You have to be selling product first. A lot of product.
Brad, you want to answer that? Somebody not up here?
Actually, you can get it through an indie distributor really easily. But the questions that they're going to ask you are like, how much money are you going to put into
it?
What lines are you going to do? how much product, what regions, do you have any radio, that kind of crap. But like you can call Glenn Dicker Red Eye, and he does everything from gospel to heavy metal, and he'll take 250 discs normally, as long as it's a decent product. And
Now he is more quantity over quality, though. I mean, he will pick up a lot of stuff, though, because he can, turn over a smaller volume like that. So.
And it depends on what market you're into, and what region. I mean, they're really strong in the southeast. We made them last year pretty much a national distributor with the Jerky Boys. They're on our label. So it depends on what you're going to put into it. The distributor's out there to make money on your product, and you might sell it to them for $4. They're going to add their 6, and then the store's going to add their 5 or whatever. It all just depends on what you want. So, go to their website.
And most of the first thing you said, even some of the major P&D deals, most of them want to know exactly how much money you're going to have to put behind it to promote it. Come on, you walk into a record store these days and there's so much product in there. Nobody wants to add just more product that's going to sit on the shelf. So, I mean, they do want to know what your plan is. I mean, just to have a CD and go, hey, we want a distribution deal is not enough. You're better off just going to your micro-marketing, literally going to the places that you can service, whether it be, here in Jacksonville, whether it be your indie little retail stores that'll let you do consignment, It's better off to do it like that and keep building out and building out and building out until you finally, you've hit the ceiling. You've got to bring in somebody else.
Okay, this is presented by North Florida Music Association, and their website's northfloridamusic.com, so check it out. You can sign up if you want to be a member at the desk right there where all the pizza boxes are that you guys wolfed down that they provided
empty?
for you.
Are those empty?
There's still some pizza back there, I think, afterwards. Also, I wanted to plug Star Polish, www.starpolish.com. It's a musician's website. Definitely check it out. Sarah knows a lot about it. I don't know that much about it. I wanted to plug that. I want to thank Pete Thornton, Steve Robertson from Atlantic, and Scott Mikell from 6 Mile and Warner Brothers. And if we can give them a round of applause, that'd be great. Come to the show tonight. Get in free. Leave your name at the door. We'll let you in free.